What's up, everybody? How you guys doing? JCS Interactive, as we're wont to do this football season. Tom and I will join you ordinarily, if I could say it. Ordinarily, Tom? Do we have an ordinarily right off the bat?
Ordinarily.
At 7 o'clock. But tonight we're bringing it to you at 6 o'clock. Probably sick of us by now. There's been a lot of us. We've been all over the things. But that's because Florida State had a huge win, and that's really cool. So welcome on in. Fire away with questions. We'll have a little talk. We'll have a good time. We'll relax. And then I'll race out of here like a bat out of hell and get over to a football game to see if I can catch the second half of my son's game. So it'll be, what can you do? They move games around. That's where we're at. But it's fine.
What part of town is it? Is it the other side of town?
It's over by Lincoln. So there you go.
Yeah. You'll be at some red lights. No matter what you do, there'll be some red lights. Okay, understood.
Andrew writes, Jeff, admit it, you chuckle just a little every time you hear Aer Lingus. Yeah, by the way, Andrew, believe me, that joke was, we all thought of Beavis and Butthead, and, a lot of people showed up and in the chat last time and tweeted at us that it was a cunning nickname or a name for an airline. And it was all there. We had all of it. Yeah. It's all there.
Off and running in the interactive hour. Outstanding.
And nobody cursed. Nobody said anything bad. How many rushing yards? Tell I'm tired today.
You still catching up on sleep? I am. I'm chasing the dream.
Yeah. No, it's I'm glad tomorrow's already Thursday, but I've got Redemption Thursday picks to make. I got to get my I drafted my fantasy team last night. I got bets to make. Damn it, we got Redemption Thursday. Come on, man. Rushing yards versus Southern Miss, a lot. I think ideally they shorten the game. You get out to a lead, get some work in the passing game, but from there you're going to want to run the ball. You got a bevy of backs that you want to feed. I think they're going to try to rotate a lot of guys. That was a Southern Miss team that a year ago, I think, went 7-6, Tom. So I don't, it's not a juggernaut.
Well,
Southern Miss.
I could tell you that I pulled up the numbers against Alcorn because that's who they played last week. And Alcorn rushed for $182, 6.3 a carry. So, yeah, we're going to go north. Yeah,
I would go north. Since we put 45 on LSU, will we be disappointed to put up less than that for the rest of the games moving forward? It's funny. I'll be honest with you. I don't look at it that way. I don't, every game is unto itself. I really believe that. There are going to be games where you suspect that they can score 60 and do. And then there'll just be days where they're not red zone efficient. They blow some opportunities. They win the game comfortably. It's not as pretty as you'd like it to be, but it's a young man's game caring about whether or not you win by 55 or 44. I used to do that. I was that guy. When I was 20 something or even early 30s, I'm like, that was ridiculous. We had opportunities. These days, I come off that field and it's 44-7. I'm not going, it should have been 66-7. I don't do that.
My threshold is whatever it takes to get the backups on the field is good enough. So if you can get to that point, if they tack it on and they run up a score on their own, that's great. Like, remember the Idaho game years ago that we accidentally scored 80 against one of the Petrino brothers?
Yeah.
That's fine if you do that. But you remember the NC State game from 2013. It was 35-0 in the first quarter, and really nothing happened when the backups came in. I think we hovered around 50, 55 in that game, and NC State might have scored a couple of touchdowns in the second half. Like, that's okay too, because I just want the Brock Glenn's of the world, Hakeem Williams, and some of the young offensive linemen, some of the young defensive backs to just get more time on the field. So whatever it takes for Mike Norvell to say, first team, enjoy it. Take your helmets off. You're done for the day. That's good enough by me.
Yeah, the one exception is I want to score as many points as humanly possible against Wake Forest this year. I agree, Dad guy on that one. I want to run it up on Wake. It's a get back in your hole sort of game. Tired of that nonsense, tired of this odd sort of arrogance that Wake has somehow developed, or a few people have over there. I'm done with it. Scott writes, thanks for the great show, Jeff. Recently renewed my Warchant subscription. Well, thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. And thanks for renewing your subscription. I I think we got a lot of good stuff for you this year. We've got a great team. I don't mean to sound like, cliche, but it's true. I love all the guys I work with. They're all talented. And it gives you a lot of different perspectives. So it's cool. It's a lot of fun to work with these guys. 6:01 on a Wednesday afternoon. Damn Skippy, old school, Quiz Boyd 85. I have gotten the sense that you saw something that makes you feel like a championship is now a possibility. Is that the case? I thought this team was good. We said it. I thought they could go to the playoff. I still do. I think we're probably, given what they're going to lose, I think they're probably a team that is 2 years away from maybe doing something like that. When they lose some guys at the end of this year, could they put themselves in a position to make a play for it? I think they're good enough to be a top 4 team. So like last year's TCU team, when they beat Michigan, I suspected before the Georgia game that beating was what we were going to see. There's always one team that is a little bit further along that, that has that look of a juggernaut team. And Georgia had that look. I don't know if I'm comparing us to that level of awesome. And even that Georgia team nearly lost the game, should have lost to Ohio State. So, get yourself in a position to dance and see what happens. I'll say this. We have a championship level offense. And I just don't know if we're deep enough defensively to win a national championship, or deep enough defensively for me to predict us to win a national championship. I think we could get to that game. And, if you get to the game, you could win.
I think unequivocally this team could win a championship this year. It can. There are different years in college football where you have juggernauts that are on a different level among the elite. I don't think this is one of those years. And the status of the offense is the bigger part of the puzzle in this day and age of college football. So, as long as you're pretty good on defense, and I think they got a chance to be pretty good on defense, that's plenty with the way the game is called, the way the game is officiated. And I think Florida State's variety on offense makes them dangerous every week. We just saw it. This is one of the cool things, man, is that this is an example of a clunker of a half. It was a clunker of a first half, and you still could have scored 50 points, really, if you pushed your foot to the gas in the second half. That's better than I thought it was going to be. And a quick technical note. So Luis and other people have asked, can you repost the link to the montage? It is now in the chat. So it takes you to an Apple Podcast landing page, and you can hit play to that. Either one of today's hours leads with it, so the link is in the chat.
It'd be cool if Keon Coleman could play basketball for us. Is there a biscuit in the doghouse? That has been one of the more mesmerizing developments out of camp. I mean, we don't have a good answer for this. I thought that Marquiston Douglas had the better camp when it came to he and Morlock.
Yeah.
And I got no problem with Morlock. I think his upside's fantastic, and I think he's a good player. I don't know. It might be, guys. I will. One of the things I like. I don't know if I don't know for certain. Nobody's told me, and I haven't asked. And I'll get a chance to talk to somebody, but we got to be careful how we deal with that stuff. But one of the things that I'll say is they're really consistent about the things you have to do on and off the field, and so when guys go from, playing a role or getting a lot of time to suddenly not getting a lot of time and they don't appear to be hurt, I'll tell you my default is these days to go with, they're sending a message. Somebody said something, did something, arrived late to a meeting or something. I'm just telling you the kinds of things that get you in trouble. The kinds of things that could get nothing. It may not be anything serious, but they just know that they have talent and everybody's bought in and pulling in the right direction, and they're not going to put up with it. So I credit them for that. They've been very good about that. They really have. I think that they send messages to them.
I agree. And look, I think given the pieces that they have on offense, it's not that Morlock can't develop into something more than he is right now. But I think given the other pieces they have on the chessboard, Biscuit fits better to make the whole thing go. But we'll see how the year develops. We'll see how it develops.
Yeah. Trey, if you're in Perry and you just got power back, I'm happy for you.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I'm glad you get to watch the show too. Yeah. I'm very happy for you if that's the case. I mean, the reason I say if that's the case, I don't doubt you, Trey. I'm just saying, obviously, I predicted the storm might go to Perry. I still feel bad about it because then when it hit Perry, I'm like, well, it had to hit somewhere. I just wanted something that didn't have as many houses around. That's all. That's all it meant. I didn't want any damage to people. And so I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're good to go. And it's good to have you on board here. Again, Tom, it could be matchups. Could be certain matchups too.
Yeah.
In terms of tight end and all that.
They've said that that it's not just a tight end; it's on the offensive line. Certain games they want guys in the interior playing tackle. Defensively, same thing. I mean, you might see sets where you have 2 and 3 linebackers for more of the game than you expected to see, and then you'll have games where there's only 1 linebacker out there because you got a team that loves to spread it out and throw 4 wide at you. So that's the hard thing in this day and age of, I think in all football, we were talking about this with fantasy the other day. It's just the ball is spread around so much. There's so much multiplicity. It was easier playing fantasy 20 years ago because it was like, here's your top running back, here are the top 2 receivers, here's a tight end, and they've got nobody else. And now it's like, here's your top playmaker, and then the 7 other dudes who are sharing the 20 targets or the 25 touches in a given week. Same thing in college. I think if you're judging, game by game as a do or die of what Morlock is or what Marqueson is or maybe some of the running backs, you're just going to wind yourself up for no reason. They're going to be multiple across the board this year.
Garrett said your boy Matt Moscona had went viral for his Keon and Johnny wouldn't start at LSU take. What's the worst take you guys have ever had at FSU?
Ooh,
I got to go back. There's been 25 years worth of takes for me.
I've had some.
I've already admitted I missed on Brian Burns at the next level. What he would be, and he's gone on to get a second contract, and he's a good player. And
that Willie would be good.
Yeah,
pretty bad one.
Well, what I was counting on with Willie to be good, Willie Taggart, was recruiting. I thought he could win in recruiting and do enough to stay afloat to win over kids in recruiting in the state of Florida. And then at some point you have so much talent that it's hard to lose. I didn't look at Willie as an elite play caller because we had people from Oregon telling us he wasn't. And, but I missed on Willie. I thought it would work out for him. I really did, but I got that wrong.
Jordan Young would be a star receiver. We were starved, man. I don't know. That's a whiff.
You did hold on to the Jordan Young thing for a while.
I did.
You really did. You really held on for a long time there. I've missed on some guys that turned out to be good players. I've predicted. I'll tell you what. I thought that who was it? Why am I drawing a blank? The 2 quarterbacks.
What year?
Oh, the lost decade.
You talking about Xavier Lee?
Yeah, I missed on Xavier Lee big time. Xavier Lee, we used to do things in practice that just and I will stand by this. I didn't get this part wrong. Xavier Lee's arm strength and overall athleticism was freakish. There have been very few people to come through here who can do what he could do. It just didn't work out. And I have a theory on that. It doesn't do me any good to bring up what that theory is. I think Xavier had a good time while he was here. And but he could really sling it. It just didn't happen. But yeah, I thought Xavier Lee was going to be a superstar.
So Dave has a couple of things. One about Duke, and I posted another question about Duke. But real quick, here you go. Dave, if you're looking for the 10% off of everything, it's on the homepage of warchant.com. There's a team store link that will take you and get you the code for members. And that will take care of every purchase. If you did the $25 gift code this weekend that we had for the special, thank you very much for signing up. On3 is going to email that to you. If you have an issue in the next couple of days, it usually takes a couple of days. Just hit support@warchant.com and we'll get you squared away. But those are the answers there. He wanted to know about Duke, and a couple guys are asking about Duke. So, anything from Monday that scares you more because you were already kind of on them?
I liked Duke at the start of the year and said they could be a bit of a pain because I like Elko. I think he's a good coach. I think he's already proven that very quickly. They just the thing about Duke is they're going to make you earn it. But they're going to make you earn it. They're going to be pretty fundamentally sound, and they're going to play good football. The one thing I will say that surprised me with all the transfers they have is they've got some size that I didn't think they'd have, and they held up for a while there. But you saw Clemson run on them, and I think we can run on them too. I don't worry about them in the sense that they come in here and win the game, but I do think you got to play well. I think you're going to have to suit up and play hard and be smart.
Yeah, I
I
would
thought
say.
that before the season though.
Yeah, if I've got a question for Elko, it's like, are you ready to face a real offense? Because Clemson's wasn't. They might develop into something by the end of the year as they sort out their issues. That's possible that Clemson could be a pretty good offense. They've got enough players to maybe make it happen. But
I like the freshman wide receiver. I like the one freshman wide receiver that I saw. I think he's pretty good. And then I do think they're a little bit more physical than the Duke teams that have had success in the past.
Yeah. No, fair. No, it's a well-coached team that if you play like a bunch of idiots, you're going to be in a game and maybe you lose that game because they believe and all that stuff happens. But a lot of things have to go wrong for that game to be in danger in the second half, I think.
Great show, guys. Do you anticipate Fisk being double teamed as the season progresses? And if so, who is the D lineman that benefits? Also, is Klubnik throwing long balls to the flat an opportunity for our defensive backs? Yeah, it was a weird game for Klubnik, wasn't it? I didn't see anything there that was overly impressive. One thing I will tell you, my man slid on a 4th down short.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That is not what we do.
And his head coach killed him for it publicly in the postgame.
Well, that's also not what we do. But I would just tell you that that does not go well. When the offense has routinely turned the ball over and the defense is fighting their ass off, and you slide short on a 4th down to avoid being hit by a yard, there were things I could say that I would say if we were in a locker room or on the field that I can't say here. That ain't good, man, because those guys are putting it on the line. Yeah. I can't have that. My quarterback can't do that. So I love that that's a rocky beginning for him. And then I would tell you that it's a rocky beginning with the relationship because obviously he ignored Dabo. Dabo had a nasty thing to say after the game. I mean, what are we doing here in week 1, Clemson? It's fine with me. I hope it's dysfunctional as hell. We first guessed that there were problems, that something was rotten there. And that's something's easy to see. It's the disingenuousness of the head coach. This is a guy that has done some things that I didn't think he'd be able to do, and I give him credit for doing it, and that he used that snake oil salesman, old-time religion nonsense to sell his program and get people to come there because you can fool people using that. We've seen that through the ages. But at some point you get found out if it's not authentic. Yeah. If that's not really who you are.
Yeah, if you don't walk it. Yep.
If you don't walk it, you get found out. Needless to say, I've never been a believer of his.
No, and the other thing is I think that dysfunction came from the top down, and maybe it's leaking into the locker room a little bit more, but it seemed like it was administration, athletic department versus Dabo in terms of expectations or whatever that's going on behind the scenes, because any chance he got to restate his resume when nobody was really questioning it on the outside, the Clemson media is in lockstep. I mean, North Korea would be happy with much of the Clemson media.
Well, he's insulated in the middle of nowhere, so you're going to get that, right?
Right. So since he's not questioned on that level, why would you need to restate your resume? Who are the quote unquote haters? And I felt like that indicated that maybe it was coming from IPTE. It was coming from the inside. And he is going to circle the wagons. That doesn't mean that Clemson can't rise up and play a really good game in 3 weeks. It's just they've got a lot more to deal with, which is wonderful. And Braden Fisk, I think he's going to be double teamed a hell of a lot more. Early on against LSU, he was not. He was an immediate problem. And so, the answer to the second part of Lee's question is whoever lines up next to him is going to benefit. Could be Farmer, could be Lovett, could be Dennis Briggs, it could be whoever. But LSU decided early on, oh, crap, we're not letting this guy beat us. Somebody else is going to have to do it.
Yeah, Farmer's going to have a monster year. He got the start the other night. I'm not surprised by that. Once he gets his head on right and plays, he's just a beast. He's just a big, strong guy. Had a good camp. So it's not surprising. I like it. I like it. What happened to Destin Hill after the first quarter? Cortez asked. All right, in real time I saw this, and then when I watched the replay, I think even more so, Tom, you tell me if you agree. I think he landed hard on that catch attempt
Mm.
in the first quarter. When you see him come down, it was like a Mike Evans landing. You know, Mike never lands soft ever and
Yep.
is always in a little bit of pain when he does. I think he had a little something. I think he jarred a little something there. I don't know that, but he really hit hard. And you know, I also think that there were so many options with Keon Coleman was open on almost every play. In fact, the takeaway from that game, there's a lot of them, but one of them was that it's not just that LSU couldn't defend Florida State and really struggled to stop them. It's that they really had zero chance of routinely covering Florida State's wideouts. I think if they had just decided to sling it from the jump, they could have. I don't love that. I want to give my defense a chance. You're going to have some quick series if you do that. You know, overthrow a pass here, ball gets tipped there, whatever.
Yeah.
But man, they could have thrown for 480 yards. It was stunning how open those receivers were.
Yeah, and we did a really good job in pass pro. I mean, across the board, PFF says so, but you could have seen it with your own eyes that there was a ton of time. Early on in the game, there were some more pressures. I think LSU did some things to confuse us, and the interior was an issue once in a while. But overall, Jordan had a lot of time, even against 4-man rushes and 5-man pressures. And, I mean, with that combination of the receivers and time, that's why you'd see him bounce out every once in a while, and then somebody's wide the hell open. We first guessed this with how many weapons this offense has. There are going to be wide the hell open dudes. There has to be. You have no choice but to leave somebody a one-on-one, and we've got a bunch of guys that can win those one-on-ones.
We get asked about the adjustments at halftime from several people here with the two-back set. They're just so multiple. They're going to run a lot of sets, and they're going to have a lot of guys that they can turn to in the backfield. We talked about that going into the season. I think LSU got worn down. We started playing a little bit quicker. We ran the ball. We stayed dedicated to it. Remember, we came out and went run, run, run.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is if you can get a first down doing that, now you can play a little bit faster and they can't sub and you can stay in that formation and keep running it. I just think we committed to it. We really didn't commit. Now, I know that was a different formation, but I don't think they wanted to show it necessarily early, and then they came to it. I think it was always part of the game plan. And once it started working, it was impressive. I'd have to go see the coach's tape as to what it was LSU wasn't able to do in terms of a fill. There were a lot of times where, you know, we created an extra hole and then there was nobody there. I don't know if their linebackers were tired. I don't know if that's a case where they kind of neutered Perkins in a way, which was awfully strange and a weird decision that LSU made. I would have never done that.
Yeah, we first guessed that all week long leading up to, like, are we sure that that's the best use of his talents? Like, especially if he's trying to grow into something, maybe you want to develop that as the season goes on and not go all in for Florida State, because no team, no offense this year that they're going to see is going to test the linebacker's mettle and his intelligence and his instincts more than Florida State. Like, you can do most things right, and Norvell and Atkins have schemed something up that you're going to be in the wrong gap and you're screwed. I would say this about the running game. I thought Trey performed less than stellar in the first half in terms of going where things were blocked up, taking what was given to him. And then Jordan didn't give in a couple of situations where if you do, and Jordan made the wrong choice, then Trey's numbers looked fine. And I don't know that we're talking about it, but there's no doubt. You brought it up when we did our reaction podcast on Monday, that it meant something to Florida State and this staff to come out and run to start the second half. Like, they wanted to prove it almost to themselves that, hey, settle the hell down. We're going to get a few first downs and move this thing across midfield and establish our way into the red zone by running the football. And there was a physicality to that first drive that I think the other ones lacked because we threw it a little bit more.
Did you see that story, by the way? I just saw it pop up in here, man. Mike Williams passed away today.
Yeah.
You see that? The former Bucs receiver. I remember him at Syracuse briefly.
36, man. That's my age. That's scary.
It's a construction accident is what they said, is what I was reading.
Oh, no. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Not good. That's a shame. Dad guy, do we play starters for a half, second string, third quarter, fourth quarter, third string? I don't know. I'd love to be able to get to our third stringers. My goodness gracious. Wouldn't that be something? We start getting a third string, guys. You're really doing something. The whole thing about this Saturday's game, and I know we're tired. It'll be interesting to see where they're at. I brought up emotional stuff today, meaning like they won't have the same emotion. But if you take care of business and you execute, then you should be able to get a lot of guys in this game in the second half, and that includes Brock Glenn.
Yep.
I'd really like to see Brock Glenn. Now,
so would they.
They're going to put Tate in. They're going to give Tate the nod. He's first off the bench, I would think. If Florida State gets up 24, 28 points in the third quarter, I think you see Tate first. But just don't do anything silly, and then let's get some Brock in that fourth quarter, man. I want to see it.
Yeah, I think you need to get Tate out there maybe with the ones for a series or two if you can help it. Jordan's done. You get the margin to high 20s, low 30s, and you feel very good about what you're seeing, getting to that number, that it is indeed insurmountable. I think a drive or two with the ones for Tate might not be a bad idea, just a hedge. They did that last year, and it was valuable, proved valuable. And I know he started slow against Louisville, but getting him some run was something that paid dividends. But I'll be interested to see if they actually do it. There are dynamics at play here. Merritt should be the first, but when it's time for the third quarterback to come off the sidelines, is it number 10 or number 11? Because I think if it's number 11, that is the end of number 10 in Florida State and A.J. Duffy. Personally speaking, that's just my own opinion, but that's a signal sent that is clarion and done,
I would be shocked if A.J. Duffy was still here after this season. I think he's been passed over.
Maybe a spring though, right? Like you might maybe still one more spring.
Maybe, yeah. But if it's really clear that Brock is now the number 3 behind Tate, why? What would you? I mean, what are you waiting on?
It's my personal feeling, yours as well. That's the case, that Brock has passed him. But I just wonder, it's different to feel that way and see it in practice, and then when it's time for the third guy to come off the sideline, make that choice. Because it's at that point, I believe it's permanent.
We may be at a sink or swim moment. I mean, it could very well be where they say, you know what? All right, let's not let this marriage end without one more try. We're going to give you some runs with the ones here or the twos. And AJ, you got to show us something here because we're not seeing it in practice. So you're going to have to play and play well to make us reconsider this. I'm not speaking on behalf of the coaches. I'm just talking about what I think at some point. So to me, you got to go out and play well. Maybe he would, Tom. Maybe he would. We have seen him look comfortable in games.
I think he looks better in games than he does practice. In limited game reps, I thought last year before the Louisville game, he got in and he looked better than Tate in terms of being calm. I'm not talking about the throws per se, but it's just the body language was, okay. So AJ likes Saturdays a lot more than he likes Monday through Thursday. I see how it is, but maybe you're right. Maybe that's where they say, all right, man, this is it. Here you go. The twos are out there. It's your turn, AJ. Tate did his job. But I hope with the scores in a position where they can make that determination and it's not just simply a Jordan and Tate on a Saturday night.
Now, personally, I don't care if they play Tate or Duffy. Just throw Brock Glenn in there and let's go. You're just asking my opinion. I am ready to move to the Brock era behind Jordan Travis.
Breaking news, this is not. Yes,
no,
yes.
I just want to make it abundantly clear. I don't need to see A.J. Duffy. And I don't really need to see Tate. I'm ready to see Brock. Let's go. So, by the way, we get this every week. And we get this on the show a lot. And I get emails about it and tweets about it. And I see other people ask it on message board and all that. Everybody's convinced that Alex Atkins is soon to be gone. And I just don't think he is. I think Alex Atkins will be here next year. And I think Alex Atkins may be here the year after. I don't know that. He likes it here. They're paying him handsomely when you look at other assistant coaches' salaries around the country. I mean, Alex is making good money. He's valued. He gets opportunities as the OC to get credit for a lot of what we're seeing from Florida State's offense. Mike's never shy about praising the assistants that are really performing. He's always praising his guys.
Yep.
So there's no bitterness that you're under somebody's thumb. I don't, he's a guy that at some point will get another head coaching offer. If the right place offers it, okay, maybe that would happen. But I don't think he's going to go somewhere else for a little bit more money and maybe a 100% opportunity that he calls the plays on game day.
Yeah.
Because on game day, Mike's calling plays. So, I know after some time, eventually you want to get out from under that. But right now, game plans during the week. I know he is an OC. He gets a lot of credit. He likes Mike. He likes it here. He's paid handsomely. I just don't. I don't think he'll be riding out anytime soon.
Yeah, we're not floating him $600K for the job. He's getting paid well. I agree. I think it would have to be an elite offensive program where he gets to call plays, like akin to you go to USC or Alabama, and they're like, you can call the plays.
Right.
We'll pay you $2 million to be the offensive coordinator. Like, okay. I don't think you take a step back and go to, I don't know, like Virginia, but you get to be the offensive coordinator. I think you would go to Virginia to be the head coach.
Head coach.
Yeah.
Head coach.
Yeah.
Well, that's no different than the assistants you saw at Clemson.
Yeah.
One went to South Florida, failed miserably.
Yeah.
The others at Virginia, failing miserably. Now, that said, they've had an unspeakable tragedy, so it's hard to know what that program should be. I mean, that's tough.
So I would assume the answer to Wesley's question is yes, you're excited about the ability to rotate in the offensive line. How could you not be, personally, I think?
Been excited about it for a year and a half, man. Been excited about the fact that we have a deep offensive line, a talented offensive line. I do, I cross my fingers that they will stay healthy. Just that it's an area where a lot of attrition happens, just the spot on the field, offensive and defensive line. But if they are healthy, that team has got a chance to really wear people out week in and week out because they can rotate. They seem very comfortable doing so. It's not something I've ever really seen in the past where you're actively attempting to rotate your offensive linemen.
Yeah.
But it's impressive.
Well, the key to it, and Atkins talked about this yesterday after practice, is that it's communicated beforehand. There's no excuse. You know that you're going in and you know that you're coming out. So, if you're Dimitri or somebody else that rotated out, let's say Byers before Robert, that issue arose, like, don't pout. Don't pout when you're coming on the sidelines. We talked about this. This is out in the open. There's no hidden agenda here. Your role is going to be this. And then he said, once you set those parameters, then the guys just lean into it and they love it. So the communication part of it is big. Like, you're seeing the things in Clemson where clearly nobody's gotten in the room together to say, hey, I believe in you, or hey, this is our plan. And it's those lack of communicative moments that give you problems. Atkins tells his guys in a blunt way, this is how it's going to be. And then they follow the lead.
They're very blunt, but Atkins is a guy that on this show said that guys can really take huge leaps from one year to the next. So when he's blunt, because a player is not getting it done, he doesn't give up on him. So, I think there comes a time and a place at some point where you do move on and the guy behind that player ends up getting a better chance. But he's not flippant with it. He understands how long it can take certain guys to develop. It is very rare to be able to. Riley brought up the question: how many teams can hunt for skill for matchups with their offensive line? It is really rare that you can do that. That you could be like, oh, you know what, this guy cannot handle us in the run game. Let's sub in, whoever, and that's really pretty amazing.
So a philosophical question from C Money. I'm assuming that's Corey Clark's burner. So what's up, Corey? I assume we'll have plenty of backup reps this year. Any idea how the play calling would be? So if you were Coach Cameron, would you still run the hell out of your offense with these backups on the field, or would you be conservative and maybe just let the ground game take shape and get out of there healthy and get out of there with a win?
Oh, I'd run. If my backups are in, I don't owe it to anybody to take the air out of the ball. I'm going to run what I want to run. Always. I'm not really concerned about feelings. And listen, Southern Miss is getting paid to come in here and take this ass kicking, and paid handsomely. So I'm not really worried about it. The check ain't going to bounce. You better buck up, soldier. We're throwing the ball around now. Now, listen, I'm not going to do it foolishly. If we're up 57-7 with 7 minutes to play, I'm not running a flea flicker. I'm not an a-hole. But we could be up 30 points and you can throw the ball. You want to see these guys play football. You want them to run your offense. You're going to take what you can. There is a moment where you call off the dogs. Typically, by the way, I will tell you, that moment is conceded by the opposing team.
Mm-hmm.
That is to say, at 30-0, if Southern Miss comes out and throws the ball 3 downs in a row, they haven't quit.
Yeah.
They haven't quit. They're not in a hurry to get out of here. They're trying to make a comeback. I can throw the ball now if I want to. At 37-0, they just threw it 3 times in a row again. Okay, well, I'm feeling froggy. We're going to throw it around a little bit too. Now, the next time they come down, they're down 40-0, 45-0, 44-0, and they run it 3 times in a row. They just doffed the cap and said, no mas.
Yeah. And at that point, you look across the way and you go, gotcha, no big deal.
5 wide, gentlemen, 5 wide.
Oh, okay. Here's a question for you. Did we run it up on LSU with the ones, the way we ran that series, or that 45th point, the 44th and 45th point? Was that a case of us running it up, or was it a case of just doing what you're supposed to do?
No, just do what you're supposed to do. Run your offense, man. You can't get in trouble for the LSU game. You do whatever you – I mean, they're still out there fighting. Hell no. No.
Okay. Over under 30 yards receiving for Hakeem Williams this weekend, asks Dylan.
Over.
I agree. Might be on one play. You never know.
Yeah, over, Dylan. I think over.
Ethan wants to know, how worried should we be that Mike Norvell has Super Bowl aspirations, or perhaps Texas, for example, comes knocking if Sark doesn't pan out?
God, one of 4,000 coaches that haven't worked out at Texas, huh? I don't think Mike would leave FSU for Texas. So I don't worry about that. The NFL, I've never asked him. He seems happy as a college coach. He likes the game. I think sort of his background suggests that he loves to coach in college, but I don't know what his aspirations are. He's a young man, and I think he'd like to win a championship here and finish what he started. I think I'd be more concerned if Florida State – I say concerned, I'd be celebrating. But if Florida State wins a national championship with Mike and we start hearing whispers about opportunities at the next level, I might get concerned about that. At that point, he may take the next challenge. I don't know.
Yeah, to me, when he first set up this organization, the way he wanted Florida State football to be, in terms of the hierarchy and the roles and the names, even the job titles, I thought, man, this guy wants to run a franchise. Like, he wants to be a professional coach. But then I look at the way he interacts with players day to day. He's not at that point of his life. He would have to change who he is in order to be a professional coach. I don't think he's ready to do that. He'd have to have less fun, in short. He'd have to have less fun with the kids. He would have to, reserve himself and become more stoic. I don't think it's in his personality yet. Now, if the NFL continues to evolve, maybe there's a way that you can be that guy and be a head coach of an NFL team. But I just don't see like 32-year-olds and 35-year-olds responding to the way Mike Norvell operates right now. I see 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds responding to the way he operates.
So Mike is a rah-rah coach who's an excellent X's and O's guy on game day. It's a really good combination. That's why he's entering a great stage of his career where the marriage at Florida State is perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, I made this observation earlier. I think given how young he is, I mean, he's racing players to start practice.
Right. That's not going to work with the Dolphins, No.
And he's a guy that he's a rah-rah guy. I mean, when you yell at players about finishing reps and doing the kind of stuff he does and then chase them down after a great catch or a good block, I mean, that is a rah-rah player's coach. And I think that diminishes with time. You get a little calmer with age. And you begin to wonder, what would I do if I was presented with a next challenge? But I don't think he's even close to wanting that right now. Now, everybody, and I mean everybody, should listen to offers. So I can't tell you that, the Jerry Joneses of the world, now he'll be dead before he comes calling for Mike, but there are plenty of owners that, fall in love with a guy in college. They see a team that was bad. Now that team is good. And they go, who's that guy? That guy seems like he knows what he's doing. I'll give him a call. And they have more money than sense, and they throw an ungodly number at you. I don't know how one would answer that. I mean, you owe it to your family and yourself and your kids to listen to that offer. We all do. But it doesn't mean that that's what he wants. So I think what he wants is to be here and to finish this thing. Now, that could change. That can change. And lots of things do in your career. It does for all of us.
FSU Seminole asks, would a dominant year make a stronger claim for FSU to leave the ACC? Do you think one is related to the other, on-field versus realignment
Can't hurt,
possibilities?
Tom. I've said all along it can't hurt. If you keep winning high-profile games, especially like this in dominating fashion, I think you're the shiniest of the shiny. I
Yeah.
mean, at that point, you were already the top candidate to get an offer if ESPN decided, well, we're going to have to shuffle the deck a little bit here and bolster our SEC product to counter that of what the Big Ten's doing with Fox. And Florida State and Clemson are the obvious choice right now, or Florida State and North Carolina, however you want to do it. I don't know if it's 2, 3, 4 teams, whatever it might be. But Florida State is the most obvious candidate. And I say that over Clemson, even with all of their success, even though they've owned us lately. You can see how excited is everybody at ESPN and really around the country, whether they want to admit it or not, that Florida State's good again. The brand is stronger than that of Clemson. Florida State's brand is one of the very strongest in all of college football. There's like 3 or 4 brands that you would maybe point to as being more significant of a draw for a television game than Florida State. Maybe.
Well, and what markets are they commanding? Because if you're talking about Alabama, that's great. But would you rather have, the Birmingham market or Miami, Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville, which is what you'd get in Atlanta with Florida State? Because our alum are scattered all over that part of the footprint. I think those are more valuable eyeballs if you're an advertiser. And if you're an advertiser and you want those eyeballs more, the network wants those eyeballs more than they want Alabama's,
Yeah, but look around the country at those that are paid to be talking heads and faces for these networks and the way that they talked about Florida State. It was like they were giddy. And I know people saw on Twitter that Kirk Herbstreit rated his top performing teams of the week, and he had 7 of those rankings, and we weren't amongst them. But if you listen to that guy gush about Florida State on Sunday night, I think that's genuine. Trust me, I think he thinks football's better when Florida State's a big part of the conversation. I tend to agree, by the way, not just because I'm a Nole, but I mean, when we talk about college football and the kind of years that draw eyes to sets and more intrigue, well, we'd have to admit it's more fun if Oklahoma, Texas, USC, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, LSU are all good at the same time. Like, it's crazy. Then you're like, oh, this isn't. Think about these matchups. This is going to be insane. Like that. That's good for college football.
Yeah, agreed. A couple of questions on Darrell Jackson. You heard anything lately?
I haven't. I keep following the North Carolina situation closer. For some reason, I don't know if it was because it was a night game and it kind of stood alone for a while there, but it seemed like that story got more of the concentration than did Darrell Jackson's. Now, Darrell Jackson's 2 weeks ago seemed to certainly gain a lot of momentum because you had politicians get involved and there was an outcry. But I thought the other night, they didn't really mention Darrell Jackson in the broadcast in the FSU LSU game, but they mentioned that Parker situation at North Carolina 4, 5, 6 times.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, so we'll see what happens in North Carolina. Z-Chan, thank you very much. He says, agreed. ESPN is excited that FSU is better. He saw Herbie doing the chop as he was leaving in his motorcade at the end of the game. So anytime that you've got people that work for the company and pressure external forces saying that Florida State's more valuable, perception's reality. It's something you got to have. So we appreciate it, Z-Chan.
We can't underestimate how good of a face and spokesman for the program that I think Mike is and that I think Jordan Travis is.
Oh, Kirk fell out of his chair with that post-game interview.
Right. And a big part of that is the gratitude and all of that. But Jordan, when you go back, Aslan did a great job for us when he went over there to that Manning camp.
Yeah.
And he got that interview. Now, Jordan doesn't want to say much, and he often doesn't say much. And if I'm being honest, most of Jordan's interviews are boring. And I've done some of them. And you're just kind of like, all righty. But I will tell you that at the ACC kickoff, he was the most comfortable in his skin I had ever seen. He was willing to talk and kind of open up a little bit. Had a little bravado to him, had a lot of confidence to him, but he was also humble. And I think he learned behind the scenes with the Mannings what they stressed. I want to give credit where credit's due. Jordan's a great kid, comes from a great family, so he was always a good kid. I'm not saying that the Mannings taught him how to be a good guy.
Thank you.
But I do think, by the way, that you won't find two more polished individuals in the game than the Mannings. They have a damn TV show. I mean, those guys get the deal.
Right. Media aware. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Very media savvy. But I also think, listen, Archie was a great player, and I think he's the real deal, Archie Manning. I think he was who he was. And so I'm sure he raised his kids that way. They seem to be nice enough guys, whatever. The point would be they get how to play the game, and they also know the kinds of things that people will eat up. But I also think they preach, like, you have to feel that. You have to, like, understand that the people that make you look great are worth mentioning. That is leadership 101. Mike does it, and Jordan does it now a lot. He gives credit to the offensive line. He gives credit to his wide receivers. He gives credit to the university, the fans. That's awesome to hear. It certainly can do nothing but elevate his stock. It certainly can do nothing but help Florida State on the national scene. You know as well as I do, the sanctimonious talking heads around the country and certain folks in certain fan bases that have a voice love Jordan Travis a little more than they like Jameis Winston. It's a little bit more palatable for those guys when Florida State's playing well and Jordan Travis is your guy. And I want to get into all the nonsense because we know why some of that is. But it's just true. We know that they will be able to stomach this version of Florida State's greatness more so than they did the last time we were really good.
So Greg moves to the top of the line. Thank you for the contribution, Greg. Then we need to do rapid fire for the last 15 minutes or so because the questions have piled up. But Greg wants to know, and thanks again, Greg, how probable do you think it is that Texas will help Florida State move up to number 3 with a win over Bama?
I can't trust Texas to win anything. I mean, why would I? They never do. Alabama's going to win that game.
I think last year was the one to get if you're going to get it, and their quarterback got hurt. So that's where I stand on it.
Listen, I got no problem with Texas in the sense that, Sark and those guys, it's whatever. He's got to prove it in these games, though, man. I mean, they have a game a year where you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And they also have a game a year where you think they're going to get that win and get over the hump. They're just a weird program, and they've been a weird program for a really long time. But I don't trust them.
So rapid fire time. Matthew Hodges, asks, are we a pass first, run second team?
No, we're a run first team if we can. I don't know that we thought we could just line up and run the ball against LSU. It was proven to be otherwise early in that game. Neither team could really run the ball on either defensive line early in the game. We had to go to the pass. We wanted to come back to the run because that's our identity. They want to run the ball.
Agreed there. Does Jordan start this weekend in the second half? First drive of the second half. Is he out there?
Yes.
I think so. One drive?
Maybe two.
Okay. Did you think the DL was in defensive line was in contain mode? Should we expect a bit more pressure with less mobile quarterbacks on the schedule ahead?
I thought they rushed upfield a little bit more aggressively than I anticipated.
Interior did, especially, I think.
Yeah, I thought they did. And then anytime you have a less mobile quarterback, sure. Yeah, I mean, you're going to win some one-on-ones against lesser talented teams, and you're going to have opportunities to hit the quarterback.
So Ashland Barker, did he get any looks? The backup secondary was out there for like one play. So
that was a touchdown.
That was the touchdown. So I don't know if he was out there for that play, but most of the backups did.
I didn't see him out there, and I don't want to roll my guy like that, but they did have third guy stringers out there when they gave up that touchdown. I was like, oh, man.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Will Winston Wright return punts? Will anybody return punts? That's brutal.
I think that
if you need one, I got an answer.
Go ahead.
Keon's still the guy. Keon's had a decent week. He had a decent day today doing it. So I think they just need to make sure that he runs up to go get the ball in that in-between situation. You got to make a decision, and you got to run and go get the ball. I know you guys talked about it on headlines. One of them was unfair. It wasn't quite a
I was telling Corey to shut his mouth on that one.
It almost hit the gunner, and it almost,
you can't blame him for that one.
But the first one, come on, man, you got to come up and go get that ball. I think he'll do it in the future. But Winston Wright, I think is more of a kick returner. What do you think?
Yeah, I do want somebody to catch the ball, though, at the very least. Just I will say that we'll be watching closely this weekend.
Quiz Boyd asks, is Jordan's reluctance to scramble an issue?
Nope.
Keys Boyd, but yeah. I don't think so either, but he wasn't good at it in the first half. That I can agree
Had
on.
several opportunities to take off. Tommy corrected us here and said that Barker ran with the ones and the twos at various points. I need to go back and look at snap count. I didn't mean to imply I didn't see him out there. I think from where, well, first of all, when I watched the game from the stands, I was way up, so it was hard for me to tell. And then when I watched the game back on television, I didn't hear his name called as making any big plays. But I love that kid, and I'm rooting for that kid to play a lot. His size, his length is going to help this team. So good to hear. I'll go back and check that snap count.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that for you. And if that's the case, then my apologies, but he was not noticeable. But he has been in camp. So to your point, very good player. I think Justin Crier's got a chance this weekend to turn a couple heads too. He had a very good camp when you're talking about backups, and he's obviously at linebacker. Bryce Johnson, do y'all think we come out hot in the first half and build a sizable lead early? I think so. I think they're pissed off about how flat they were, relatively speaking. Would you agree?
It's a something to sell, man, and it's a night game. It's the home opener. Even if they're dead when they take the field, they'll be energized and enthused by that reaction of a sold-out crowd that we didn't have to sell 2-for-1 tickets to get.
That's fair. Who leaves first, Alex Atkins or Adam Fuller?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I like that question. Now you got me thinking there now.
9 snaps for Ashland Barker. There you go. There's the answer. 9 snaps.
All right. Ooh, I'll tell you what, buddy.
There are dynamics at play for this.
There are a lot of dynamics that I can't get into all of them. So I just I think Atkins will be the first to go.
Okay. So that means that you think that Adam Fuller is improving. See, this is interesting. You like what you saw in the second half at Adam.
I like what I saw in the second half with Adam, and I think he's going to have a much better year. But there are other things that I don't want to get into as far as Adam goes. No, I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I'm saying, remember, Adam goes back a ways with Mike. So I don't know. I think it would be hard. And I think people will come calling for Alex before they'll come calling for Adam. There you go.
R. Wilmer, you've seen the special teams practice. I know that's your favorite part of practice.
Oh, Jesus.
Has Fitzy become more reliable?
Yeah.
Agreed. That first kick wasn't great last Sunday.
Wasn't great at all.
But it was good.
It went in.
That's right. Is Killer Mike the best play caller in the country?
I don't know if he's the best play caller in the country. Lincoln Riley's pretty good. But I will tell you that he's really good. And I have said this for a while, and I'm going to continue to say it. I get things wrong. I get things right, everything in between. I'm not trying to tell you I'm always right. I love Mike as an offensive coach. I really do. Mm-hmm. They scheme well, he and Alex. Really, anybody that works with Mike seems to have success moving the ball. Yeah. Mike seems to be the common factor there. And he's just a good play caller. He really is. He sets things up. I mean, that fourth down play call on the screen, they bring pressure from the left. It's so perfect. Yeah. I mean, he knows exactly what's coming, and there's a little get you some. You know, Tom, we haven't seen the ability to call the screen or to counter what's coming in that way since Jimbo. Jimbo, you could call a screen at the best time possible. That was his strength as a coach. He really did know when a team was gassed and going to bring it. And he always seemed to have that screen in his back pocket. I
think what Mike's got better than Jimbo for screens is maybe a backside screen. The tunnels are obviously well better, well more coached. Boy, that doesn't make any sense.
Much better coached?
Yeah, much better coach. Thank you very much. Word salad there. The backside tight end drag that used to kill Mickey against Miami seemingly every year. Mm-hmm. Boy, we've got that in spades. Cam McDonald was the beneficiary of one of those against Florida last year. He's got more of a knack for that and the rail route. Don't forget, that's still a part of the offense. And if you see that broken out at some point here, I think everybody was almost worried about Lawrence going to that side for a rail, and then the next thing you know, he goes to the other side of the field, and that's why he's wide open.
By the way, Virginia Tech game sold out. Anyone else hear that? I have not, but it wouldn't surprise me.
It is, and then the student section sold out for Saturday, so good job on both fronts. And thanks to the Godfather Ed, he's sponsoring the postgame show.
Absolutely. And tasty coffee right there from DeLuna. Do we have anything to replace the bubble screen, or how do they improve at execution? So I'm really particular about this because my son is a receiver at Leon and he has to block in space a lot of times. And it's one of the hardest things in the world to do when he gets down on himself. And he'll be like, how do I do that? I'm like, well, you're not going to really do it for all that long. First of all, if the kid is resisting, it's hard to do in space. If you think about it, just go in your front yard, if you've got a decent sized front yard with somebody, and see if they can stay in front of you and keep their hand. I mean, it's really hard to do.
You're just trying to turn them in a certain direction. Is what you're trying to do.
So the definition of success there is a little bit different than it is on the interior. The execution of that really does start with a whole bunch of want to and technique. They were good at it a year ago, and I think they'll get better at it.
Jeremy, good question here. Do you think Mike is grooming Tony Tokars to replace Alex Atkins as OC when Atkins moves on to become a head coach?
Perhaps. Tokars is a rising star. He's done a very good job. Don't forget, Tokars gets some credit for the development of Jordan Travis as well.
Yes.
He does. If you go back last year before Jordan had that great season, it was Tony Tokars that was working with him, and we saw the confidence. We saw Tony first guessed it, by the way. He told me about it not once but twice. One of those interviews was on the record. Tony does get credit.
Okay, so here's how I'd put it, and I think this is spot on. Tell me if I'm wrong. I think Kenny Dillingham developed Jordan Travis the person, and I think Tony Tokars developed Jordan Travis the quarterback. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I think Dillingham was about infusing confidence into Jordan that he could play the position.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the technical side of things has been Tony Tokars. Sure.
CT Dub, who would you want to replace Norvell if he leaves? My goodness, everybody's saying that Mike's going to do such a good job here. He moves on. Who would you want?
Oh, geez. I haven't thought about who I'd want right now.
Alex Atkins?
Sure, if Alex were here and Mike didn't take him with him or something, yeah, I'd be fine elevating Alex Atkins. The kids love Alex. He's a no-nonsense guy. He's a really hard worker. He's buttoned up. He's smart. He teaches as well as, it gets on guys. He's a taskmaster. He does a lot of things really, really well. He's smart as hell. So, sure, yes, I would be fine with that. So you always worry, by the way, when a guy has never been a head coach at this level. At this, it was an adjustment for Mike Norvell. It would be adjustment for anybody, really. But if you can hire from within, it's not a bad thing.
Dave asks, what's your take on the roof being added to Doak? That is a part of the board meeting potential renderings.
I don't like it.
Garrett asks, is Peter Warrick's kid going to play this season? Maybe against North Alabama?
There you go.
Fourth quarter.
Yep.
2013 comparable this season?
That team throttled everybody they played. I still think that Florida State is just shy of that level of dominance. I think they're going to have a lot of wins, a lot of lopsided wins. I think they're going to be a very good team that will win the conference. I think they can make the college football playoff and even have a shot to win a national championship. And yet, I just don't think they're up at that level that the 2013 team was. That 2013 team now, come on now, guys. Go back and look at those players. And what they have, 22 guys go to the league from the starters go into the league.
Yeah, exactly. The thing I'd say is this game, it doesn't disqualify you from the conversation because it's impressive. But if I was to compare it to a game that year, Boston College maybe, because you started a little slow and then you put on the afterburners. But I mean, you basically had to be perfect from here on out. Outside of playing a playoff game. Like if you get to 13-0 ACC championship and these are all laughers for the next 11 plus the game in Charlotte, all right, then maybe we can have the conversation, but that's what it would take.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot. By the way, to answer that question, the second best team in the ACC, I do think it's going to be North Carolina. But with that, I say goodbye. Love all of you. Be good. Tom, great job. Ben, great job. I'm off to watch high school football and see if my son can block in the open field, make a few catches along the way.
All right. You get out of here. I'm going to promo something as you go. Right. So God bless.
Bye-bye, everybody.
On Friday from 1 to 3 p.m., our live show, the JCS, it's going to be as normal. It's going to be on in Tallahassee, 93.3 FM and here on Warchant TV. But we are doing a fundraiser on Friday in which those super chats that so many of you are so generous with, Z-Chan and Greg tonight, among them, it is now donation mode. 100%, every cent of every dollar you give us on Friday from 1 to 3 p.m. is going to benefit directly into the bank account of the Second Harvest of the Big Bend, who is working with 7 affected counties from last week's major hurricane. So if you can stop by on Friday and support a great organization that we are so proud to partner with, we would be honored. Again, this is Friday, 1 to 3 p.m., normal JCS time on Warchant TV, the Hurricane Relief live show. So if you can make it, we would very much appreciate it. Then on Saturday, of course, we'll be at Hotel Indigo. Doors open at 5 o'clock, live show at 5:30, a 2-hour pregame show from atop Hotel Indigo. We are so excited to be there again. It's going to be a fun show, and it includes drinks that are cold, food that is hot, air conditioning if you need it, clean bathrooms, and the best view in town. Games will be on the TVs as well. We will be starting right around, middle of the third quarter for Texas A&M and Miami. So we would love to see you on Saturday. But again, wanted to tell you mostly about Friday afternoon, 1 to 3 p.m. We'd love it if you could make it. Warchant TV and also 93.3 FM in Tallahassee. So for Jeff, I am Tom. We hope you all have a great night, and we will talk to you tomorrow on Warchant TV. There's a Wake Up Warchant live tomorrow night, and more coverage, as always, on warchant.com. Good night, everybody.